Hello, everyone. Welcome to the broadcast. We're right at the wire to get started. See, we have some folks already with us. We have Jay Gamer and James Neal. Welcome. I see a Lola over in the tall side said hi as well. I don't know if they're still there. But welcome, everybody. Welcome. We're jumping right into things. Let's check with the kitties. Just before, though, we have Sammy on the bed and Sky over on the adjacent table. If you've seen the other cats there, you can get an idea that Sky is currently the biggest of them. Mason is second to him, but he's still noticeably bigger. He's also fluffier. Not chunky. I think mass for mass, Mason is chunkier than Sky is. Not fat either. It's a lot of muscle. Mason's kind of toned. Let's see, put that there. So when last we were here, we got positioning working again, which gave us the ability to do things like this. Oh. Might have had an audio problem there. Can you hear me well? One of the lights turned red. But thank you, Jay Gamer. That is Sammy. So we can once again do this. Okay, good. I discovered a way to catch the audio problem and make it visible to myself. I even have a button to funnel it back if I need to, you know. So we've got the motion back in. Next, we want to make sure that we're getting... Hey there, dude. Next, we want to make sure that we're getting all of the motion types we might want. So we're going to add some more of them. Hello, Ember. You going to come sit with me again? Previously, it was easier to have Ember on. Like, Ember would come over and she would sit on my lap, maybe up my belly a little bit. But at some point, she decided she wants to be all the way up, like half on my shoulder. And it requires a lot more attention and kind of occupies more of the limbs to keep giving her the attention that she will demand. Otherwise, she'll begin orbiting my my head and being a nuisance. Yeah, I blame Sherbet. Because his traveling across my headrest and getting attention seems to have taught all of them that that's an option. So far, only Mason and Sammy haven't decided to do that. Mason, because he's not as snuggly a cat. He's much more of a get within arm's reach and demand lots of attention kind of cat. But not like be on top of you. And Sammy is just really particular about how she gets attention. She will sit on my lap and I must pet her constantly or else she will, sink in claws or nip at me. But we are going to add some additional code methods for positioning and movement today because we want to add as much to the system as we can before we start bundling them together. It also means I want to remove some, I want to get more close to their final forms. So things like a spiral that always aims right is one of the places we want to start. So let's see, I thought we had one. Okay, so we have target random. Okay, we're gonna actually make a couple of these. We're gonna say this is a targeter. It inherits targeter. And we're going to say target direction. Oh man, I spelled that all of the wrong. Direction. My keyboard is generally laid out for gaming purposes, and I learned coding before I learned well, I started learning like typing before coding, but I did more coding than typing. So my typing habits developed from I have to enter weird symbols as often as I have to enter actual text. So I don't use the standard typing patterns. So I have much more of like a gaming layout for where my keyboard is and where my hands rest. So I'm very prone to just completely hitting the wrong keys. Okay, so we're going to get target direction here. We're going to take all of target random direction. We're going to paste that into target direction, or target direction, yep. And we put in just target direction on it. And the difference with them is going to be entirely... is there really anything I'm going to be doing with this? So random direction... Okay, it's not... this is functionally different, though. So we need to make sure that we have an initialization. Okay, apply template. We set the direction in it. Oh. Yeah, I could just do that. Yeah, we're going to just call it target direction. And we're going to explicitly... We're not going to pass in a direction. If you don't pass in a direction when it says get a direction, it sets it randomly. Hey there, Dunn. Welcome. Okay. Okay, yeah. We're going to call it target direction. Target direction will choose a random direction if you don't specify it when it's created. So now we can go into the catalog, and we have targeting, load targeters. So it's random direction. We're going to change that to target direction. Yes, I know, you didn't like that. No. Target random direction is a thing. Target random direction is a thing. It's a specific thing, though. So random direction is that guy right there, but with a very particular pattern. Because we're going to say targeter... We're going to explicitly set this is equal to vector2.0. We don't need to explicitly set this, but by saying it's 0 in the code, that's what makes this random direction. We can then take random direction, and we're going to say target right. This is a very specific use case, but what this lets us do is we have target random direction again. We're going to say target right. That's going to say target right. What this will mean is from its creation, this targeter says use straight to the right on the screen. So now we can go into our load movements, and we have move spiral. So we can use target right. Let's go into the game. Thank you, Marks. Thank you. That cat is Sammy. And let's see. We should still have Sammy and Sky. You can see Sherbet is in the window there. Just behind the curtain. He's peeking out. I don't know what he's looking at, but maybe one of the others is down below. Ember is not in any of her normal spots, so Ember or Mason might be down there. But in any event, Mark, welcome, welcome. Okay, we are going to add the yarn ball here instead of the mouse. So if you watch now, the yarn ball is always going to follow this pattern. Because what the yarn ball is doing right now is it always targets the right. Mark, we are making a game. We are coding up a game right now. It is a Bullet Heaven style game. So, like Vampire Survivors, but the weaponry in the game is inspired a bit by how Noita works. In that it's modular. So I can, like right here, I've added a thing that triples the number of projectiles that are being fired. I'm going to add this with its temporary icon, and now it's triple projectiles, but they're going to move in this S curve along the path that they would. Thank you. I'm doing really chunky pixel art for it. The scale of the pixels, or at least the resolution of the pixel art, is 16 by 16. It's actually I would say a refined version of the sprites that we did for our original Noita mod. Oh, James, the target for the spiral, the direction of the spiral is the direction that it starts in. So you see how the yarn ball comes out facing the right slightly. Mark, the program I use for pixel art is Asprite. I like the simplicity of dealing with it, and it also has kind of like a baked-in pattern for saving palettes. It's nothing special, but I found it easier to store off the color set that I want to use and build upon using Asprite. It's just convenient, and it's purpose-built to be sprite art. That said, I also have Krita, which I use for more, like thumbnails and the like, and you can totally do that with, you can totally do pixel art with that. But that always feels like using a very complicated tool and trying to constrain its features very heavily. Now, let's see, let's add a random direction to that. So again, this is move a spiral moving to the right, then pushing it in a random direction. I suspect so. It's ultimately just a matter of zooming in tight enough and using a non-like fuzzy brush if you want crunchy pixels like this. But pixel art can just be low-res art, effectively. You can create some really pretty stuff with pixel art. Let's do a double spiral. So this is 2 rightward spirals. It is effectively doubling the vector. So we can see what's going on if I pull this off. By default, spiral moves at 1 square outward per unit time. We can tighten that. So you see, as it goes, we're hitting about 3 squares out by around this time, and maybe 1 square out by about here. If we go into our catalog, let's constrain that. So the growth rate, we're going to do a 0.5. So now it's expanding more slowly. And we can go further. You see, it starts in real tightly there. The lifespan of the yarn ball is going to interfere at this point. But you see, the yarn ball is getting about as far as it did each time. It dies at this point in the curve because it takes that same amount of time to rotate that much. But I can then say speed up. Now it's going to rotate twice as fast. Let's do that again. So this is 4 times. So it's still left to right. It's still expanding at the same speed. When it moves really fast, we get this sort of pattern where it looks like rotating bars. Let's triple it up. Multiplying the number of projectiles now, we don't have the same bars appearance. Now we have like fans. Now if we double the spiral, it will arc out twice as fast. It expands twice as fast. Effectively, it's all of the speed is doubled when you do it this way. You can only see 5 yarn balls at once being admitted, but there's 9 of them. Trust me. Almost hypnotic, isn't it? Then let's S-curve that. Now this is an S-curve before the second spiral, so we get a very different effect than if we S-curve after. So you see, the spiral that's happening is going out this way. We're widening a lot. But if we put it after, we get much more of the spiral effect visible. It's still arcing out pretty far, though. Let's put that back. I kind of liked the tighter spiral. I don't know if this still works. Let's try it. Each module happens in sequence, James. So each movement type says, okay, I'm going to do my thing. I determine my target. I do my movement, and then I pass that along. I pass the entity along to the next movement type, and it independently does its thing. So the sequence matters. So this is a spiral with a maximum radius to it. It expands out in the arc, hits that maximum radius, and then moves along. So you get a noticeably different result from that. So this is double, so we get double the radius. And it gets a little further because its lifespan is amplified. You can see the slight overlap there because they don't arrive perfectly in sync with their siblings. Let's add a random direction to that movement. So this is an orbit, but it's altered by another vector at the time that it's launched. There is a vector facing in a random direction, so that rotation that normally happens is being pulled in that random direction. I am going to need a notation for the move random direction. But yes. Oh, let's... So we have the orbit here. We're going to expand it out, and then we're going to S-curve on it. So we're getting a consistent pattern because it's rotating around us at a fixed rate. If we tighten up that rotation, then the pattern is closer. But still fixed pattern. We would see a distinctly different behavior if the spiral did not have the fixed exit point to the right. And we can do that to some extent here. But we would see it more emphatically with the mouse. Okay, so we have spiral motion here. Setting max radius to 0 means there's no max radius. So it will expand indefinitely. So we're going to add move circle in here. I don't have the tile sprites for a lot of these yet. We might do some of that today. Add in the tiles. I feel like I'm going to be able to dodge the temptation to do a lot of that there, Lunar. So this will have the spiral icon as well, but now we have a move circle. Let's get that going. Button no worky. Screen capture. Let's quickly. Let's just reset you entirely. Quick little technical hiccup here. Now you can do it. Huh. It's not functioning at all. Wait. It's not running. There we go. All right, let's get that running here. Do the sprite. Hello, Sherbet. And icons. Okay. Mouse weapon. Yarn weapon. Spread, straight line, spiral. Okay, we just didn't have the orbit icon set up. Okay, we already have orbit, so let's get in there and do that. Load icons. Oh, we had icon orbit set up already. Let's go into game. Let's do 2 spread icons. 2 of those. 2 of those. 1 homing mouse and 1 of those. 2 S curves. We got to get an S curve icon in there. And we can see we have more of these to work with. Okay, so the spiral says move in a spiral by default. The mouse says move in a random straight line by default. If I put a spiral on the mouse in a straight line on the yarn ball, you can see the different result in how they're moving, or at least the comparison of how they're moving. It's very similar motion. It's when the vectors are applied. The big difference with them happens, you see the bigger difference when we do something like add the S-curve in. The yarn ball is a stand-in for the S-curve. But let's add in the orbit here. So what the orbit does is after a bit, it creates a fixed rotational direction. It doesn't keep expanding outward. So we don't get the vector being increased over time like we do with the spiral. The yarn ball spiral will increase in size twice as fast out to a particular distance, and then it will only increase at the original pace, but it will rotate twice as fast. Neat stuff. Okay, so we have circular motion now. Next thing that I wanted to add was a burst pattern, but let's get an icon for that. Here, say reburst. Now let's we go. Ellipsis. Okay, so we have that. We're going to export you. Using the same conventions, we're going to say 3 burst. Okay, now we have a 3 burst icon. We can go into our load icons. There is logic in place. You can see the path, the name, a PNG suffix for them here. Okay, now we have the burst icon loaded. Now we need the logic for it. So we have pattern spread. Pattern burst. Okay, we need spawning bullet count, max bullets. Then we're going to need, so we're going to take all of this. We don't have a spread arc. We have a bullet count. We have our actual max bullets. Don't think we actually need this. I thought we changed that. This is the class type, the base class type, so we need something like that. So we need our constants file. You're getting to see the full pattern for adding new stuff here. There we go. Oh, we had a pattern burst. I did have that coded before, but it did not survive some of the iterations. Okay, so we have pattern burst. Spread arc. Adjust position doesn't actually do anything here. We don't have segments or a spread angle there. We're just initializing it down here. We're done with bullet count there. So what we want to do is add a delay. So I need to figure out how we still have that. Okay, we have begin delay and should delay. I don't know that we need begin delay. Because that is handled don't need get new. This is the only place that get new gets called. Let's get rid of that while we remember. Because when we intrinsically do a clone of these, aren't doing at all. Oh, modifiers doing that. Yeah. For those that don't recall or haven't been here for it, you can clone a modifier so we can make a copy of it. This is why we don't need get new. Because we can just call new on the object, and that's going to return a new instance of the class that it is. Okay, yeah. So pattern burst doesn't need a get new. Pattern spread doesn't need a get new. It saves us one override type that we don't have to do anymore. I'm going to find out that I've broken everything by doing this. We are going to make sure I didn't in a moment. Okay, still functioning. Add a positioner. Okay. We're good. So now if we look at the spawner logic, and for those of you that aren't familiar, this is a casual experience. We're all effectively learning to do GD script and similar together. Hey there, Tanuki. Welcome to the broadcast. We're all learning to do GD script and to use the Godot engine together. This is the first game that I've ever made. This is technically the first experience that I have with Godot engine in GD script. So some of this is slow, some of this is some of it is looking up stuff. But if you aren't familiar with coding or you aren't familiar with the toolkit in general, don't worry about that. If you have questions, don't worry, just ask them. Tanuki, it's a Vampire Survivors style game. So monsters come in, you fire bullets like crazy out to get rid of them. It's also like auto shooting, so it's not like, left click to fire kind of stuff. Okay, so when we can spawn physics tick. So we have our should continue, and in the should continue, we ask the chain, are you delaying? And delaying should be setting a timer internally. We could just have that built in, but I don't want to risk that it gets thrown off. So we're going to have internal logic for it, where it just says, are you delaying? And we'll have each one determine how it delays by itself. So delay left is a float. By default, it's 0. I do as well, Tanuki. I do as well. I like these bullet heaven style games. We are getting, I think like I mentioned yesterday, we are starting to get one. We are still getting new ones, but they're less frequent than when Vampire Survivors was ascendant, when it was the new hotness, you know. Uh, but what that's resulting in is the people that are trying something new or are committed to making the project for the sake of making the project are the ones putting out those new games. They're not just trying to ride the trend. So I feel like the quality of them is going up. Rogue Genesia is one that I played again recently, and they've been making some real quality updates. Still has some of the problems that I encountered originally, but the overall flow of the game has improved a lot. I like it. And that's what I'm talking about, is I've seen plenty of them that hit early access. They have a reasonable concept, but then they fall apart. Okay, so we just need is delaying, I believe. Is delay. Should delay. Okay, the ask it should delay. This one right there. Get our should delay. Take that exact signature and we move into the child class. All those the same. It's done if we have fired all of the bullets. Isn't that identical to the parent? Done adjusting? Okay, no, it returns true. Okay, done spawning. I see. It's done spawning if it's done adjusting. Okay, so should delay is going to return if delay left if delay left is greater than 0, then delay left minus equals delta return delay left is greater than 0. Float is equal to 1 by default. It will wait. Let's do half a second. Delzy, delay. Okay, it's going to adjust. So what we have to do is, as soon as it adjusts, it's done adjusting, and it sets its delay. So what'll happen is we'll go all the way to the end of the chain, but this one will report that it's delay time every time it fires, and it will fire 3 times before it's done. So we need adjust position. And so we need the interior adjust position, underscore adjust position. So we need that. Where we return, we're just going to return the existing transform. I cannot speak German, Tanuki. I only speak US English. So we go into pattern burst now. We just return the transform as it is. So then delay left is equal to delay time. Okay, so then we go into our catalog and make sure that's there. We have an icon. Call it burst 3. Hey there, Doctor. Oh, good to see you again. Welcome back, Dr. Frederick. And you. I'm going to set the spread arc, but max bullets is 3. Makes sense. I know there are a lot of German words that overlap with the English words. Okay, so then positioner dot delay time is equal to 0.5. Then we go into the game. Burst 3. Turn burst. Might need to have a base delay time here. Okay, so now we have a 3-shot burst here. Watch. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So now we're going to do a 3 spread after the burst. So we have 1, 2, 3 in an arc. Now a 3 spread after the burst. So each one of the angles is 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. After We have 1, 2, 3 in the arc. This is why pattern spread will probably be accompanied by the burst on a regular basis. Then oh, I like how well this is working out. It drastically changes the behavior to add a burst in. Absolutely. The weaponry that we're adding initially, the first batch of weaponry, are going to be references to our Noida mod. I mean, the Catbot is already a reference to the Noida mod, but the homing mouse, the arcing ball of yarn, there's going to be some sort of laser pointer, a fast-striking, accurate laser pointer kind of thing. Don't know how we're going to do that, but effectively the red dot is going to show up. I don't know if we'll do the healing cat treat. That's right, Dr. Frederick. As you get further into it, some of the things that will show up will have a different aspect to them. They will go from the kind of cutesy cat theme, and they will spread into other themes that are lore related. Oh, man. Okay, let's put those on the mouse now. So with the mouse, you can see a bit more of it, but adding in the burst makes it so that the you can see some of the overlap there. So it's 1 second between overall volleys. So we should get a cluster of 9. So that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So with 3s. So there should be one more volley here. So that was a full cycle. Then 1 second. Then we fire again. Hello. Oof. Sherbet did a leap from the floor to the headrest. Okay, double burst next. See, there's a longer gap between the mice. There's almost a 1 second gap between the mice because there's 2 half-second delays between each shot. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Full pause. Now we're going to do the next one is a 3 spread in between 2 bursts. So you see the angle is different here. Okay, 3 spread before the burst. So now we should get 9 in a row then change angle, 9 in a row, then change angle. All right, then the 3 spread after. So arc, arc, arc. Each one of the 9 is going to be a 3 spread slightly offset. Isn't that neat? Now let's... more juice. This is this is Godot engine. And hello, Demon. Hello. Or Donnie. Let's go overboard here. We're going to go into 3 spread, and we're going to make it a 10 spread. Good, Juice. We can learn it. We can all learn it together. Okay, so then we make the mouse a 10 spread. Now we'll make it a 3 burst. So we get the 1, 2, 3. Now it's a 10 spread with a 3 burst. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to see 10 sets of 3 fire out in a tight arc. And then there will be a second wait, and it will fire out the arc again. Now we're going to do it after. So you can see the tighter arc. It's like a sweeping arc of 10. I like having the burst in there. I really do. I might have a 1 burst. Let's see what happens if we change the burst to be 1. So we're going to put max bullets back to 3, but we're going to put max bullets to 1. This is a bullet heaven game, Juice, so it's akin to Vampire Survivors. Okay, we're going to put 1 on that. This doesn't really change it. There's a slightly greater delay between firing, but now let's do a 3-1 with a burst. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's a half second between each part of the arc firing. So this is, it's firing 3 groups of 3 with a half second between each mouse that exits. So we can see the stacked, the 3 stacked fans of 3 here. Now here's a spread, delay, spread. Very similar, but a little faster in how quick they come out. Now delay, triple. Okay. Very similar. Let's do the same for the spiral just for giggles. So this is what we're going for. This is Noida inspired. At the moment, we're just eyeballing them, Frederick. The goal here. Let's put them in here. Make 1 blob spawner that they appear 10 times a second. These blobs take 2 hits to remove. One of the differences that we're going to have is we're going to avoid things like damage numbers. So it's not that I do 10 damage to the creature, it's that I hit it. We want it, the current thought is number of hits, so extra projectiles and extra ways that the projectiles land hits are the important things. So do they pass through X targets? Do they explode on impact and hit extra targets? We never want a modifier that is just, and it does more damage. So we're going to triple that. So they're coming out in 3s. We're removing more of them. Now they'll come out in 9s. Still not enough. But you can see the little blob guys swarming around. Let's push through the pack here and see if we can get some of the projectiles. The player would be taking damage during this. But that's the general vibe. How things do damage is also modular. Okay, so we have burst in place. Let's do, in the catalog, let's put burst 3 back to a 3 burst. And we're going to say 0.3. It's about 3 times a second. It's a little faster than that. Do a 3-3, actually. Okay, that's 3 times a second. 1, 2, 3, real quick. I like that. It should make it so that we can sustain bigger spreads without having to worry as much about the lag that's caused by a big number of entities leaping into existence all at once. Let's go really overboard with that to test it. Today is adding a lot of new things. That's what we're working with here. We're going to say... We're going to keep the 2 weapons active just so we can see the 2 behaviors. We're going to give ourselves 6 of those, and we're not going to add any move spirals or straight lines. You know what? We're going to keep the S-curves in there for the giggles. No circles. Okay. So normally doing this is going to cause a problem very quickly. So you can see this number will rise very quickly in the upper left. That's the number of entities in existence. As soon as that hits 750, it stops creating them. It's also where latency can start to become a problem, because we will create so many at once that it exceeds the limit. But if we put a burst on that, it constrains it a great deal. Let's put that after. So now it's much more manageable. Let's put our burst down to... and we're going to make this a very small number, ultimately. But there will be a delay. There will always be a delay. And we're going to make the spread 100. And 360. So we're going to put the burst on first. Oh, that's neat. That's neat. I like that. Yum. Hello, Sky. Sky says it's time to scratch his chin. 1 second while I'm doing that. Kitty cat check. 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. Ember is across from the keyboard, the little gray, orange, and white one. The one with the white stripe down his back is Sky. Then the little tan and white one is Sherbet. Sherbet is over on the shelf. Sky is half on camera because he is sitting on the thing that is normally a barrier to the cats getting to the mouse, but his paw is within inches of the mouse. Okay, so what if we burst again? All that does is increase the delay. But we're going to do 100 into 100 into 100 into 100 into 100 into 100. That's a lot of projectiles at once. So we get this cool perpetual spiral going. You can see the delay there. There's that little halt each time. The chain is broken at those particular moments. But what this is a spread of 100 projectiles. And each of those spreads is 100 projectiles, and each of those spreads is 100, and each of those is 100. Again, the spreads are multiplicative. So it's straining right now because it was hitting the limits. We have a bit of a tighter spread there. If I don't give Sky attention when this is happening, he's going to grab the mouse and click it. All right, let's add an S-curve to that. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. There won't be levels in the sense of, well, currently, the thought is that there won't be levels in the sense of, you know, world 1-1, 1-2 kind of thing. There might be different scenarios. Double S-curve. But crazy modular systems, crazy modular systems. Let's do that to the mouse. Okay. Let's do that to the mouse even more. When we put the S-curve doesn't really matter. It might not be apparent. These are two different types of things. Burst and spread are two different entities from move and S-curve. So the order between those two doesn't matter, but the order of that type of entity and this type of entity do matter. That's why they're generally going to be bundled, because I don't want it to have that lack of clarity. Ew. But this is what we're hoping to achieve. This is that kind of end game state. Oh, I love it. I love it. You back at... Actually, you at 5. More manageable, but this should give us a starburst pattern. Okay. So you don't, like, 2 starbursts at once doesn't give you a good impression. They're slightly off center. You don't get a good grasp of it, but there's 5 at a time. There's 5, pause, 5. Again, very similar. Okay, let's make them S-curve. Let's make them double S-curve. Let's make it completely out of control here. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 to the 6th there. This is going to be a lot of today, is making new patterns and then giggling as we demonstrate them. Happens if we add more delays in. Not a lot of difference. The 5 burst is very similar looking at all times. But what if we do that to the spiral? Okay. Okay. And now... almost a Celtic knot. Okay. We need... So we're going to have that burst of 3. Now we're also going to have a burst of 1. Why do we have a burst of 1? Because we're going to use this everywhere. What's it called? Icon blank. This will never be visible to the player. The intent of this one, it's not 0.3, oh my god, it's divided by 3.0. Tiny number. This is meant to have that delay, so in a given frame, you will never have more than 1 projectile from a weapon created. I want this to be everywhere. But that'll go into the bundles. It's less visible when we do that. Then, what's the next one that we want to do? We have spreads, we have bursts. Spreads can be like star patterns, like 360s. They can be cones. Bursts can be any number. They're just meant to be pauses in the rate of fire there. But they can also be like 3 rounds, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. Movements, we have spiraling and circling. Let's get some of the other targets in. So we have some of the targeting that we need to restore anyway. So these aren't actually targeting. These are in the movement collection. They don't do anything anymore. Instead, we need to make targeters for them. I acknowledge you, Sky. Yes, I do. He kind of squirms around when he wants attention, and that's when he'll grab the mouse if he doesn't get it. Sky's the kind of cat that knows the sort of things that you'll try to stop him from doing, so he uses that to get attention. I usually don't put anything on shelves that he could easily shove off because of that. Because he will... The classic thing that he would do when he wants attention is he would go to an object that he could shove off a shelf and sit next to it. And then he would chirp. If you looked at him, he would meet your gaze. He would look you in the eyes. He'd shove it off, and then he would chirp again. The only way to stop him from doing that was not to make eye contact. Do not look. Because he wants you to see him do it, and he wants it to make a sound when it hits the ground. That is Sky saying, "You're ignoring me. Look what you made me do." Because he lacks that option now, since I try to carefully control what he might be able to knock down. There are still some things. He resorts to things like messing with the mouse or pulling on cables. So I'm going to make targeters. Okay, we need targeters. So let's have target random enemy. Okay, so now we need... Okay, by default, it will return a null or a null direction. That's fine. So with random enemy, we're going to take random direction. Target random direction doesn't do anything anymore. Delete that. Actually, before I forget, we're going to commit the code. We're going to commit the branch. Don't want to lose progress. Okay. So in random enemy, we get target direction. Okay, we need... So target enemy, random enemy, will always... would update its direction. So we're going to have direction of enemy, and we also would have... Oh. So this is where we get a little bit tricky. Because I would like to have flies at a straight line toward the initial target. As in, it only asks once. And then it stores it. So I think we're going to have the marker of tracking the enemy. Okay. For the purposes of target random enemy, we're going to have set values. We might end up using this everywhere, actually. Let's go into Targeter. We've got set values. By default, it doesn't need to set values. And set values does nothing. Then if we do a target direction, need to set values is return not direction. Not everything will need to set values. Not everything will set values, but this is a pattern that we could use. if need set values, then all set values, just so. There. So then in target random direction, we don't actually call get direction an entity. Instead, we use this. Just so. Verify it's still working. Something's broken. I checked that. Oh, these are movements. I don't need the movements anymore. Those aren't actually targeters. Oh, stop. Okay, that's still working. Good, good. This condensed it down. We can always say, do you need to set your values? Some of them are always going to update that. Like, need set values would be, oh, it's true. I always need to update, because if I'm tracking a target, then I'm going to say, is the target there? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so then random enemy also doesn't do this. Instead, it does these. So target random enemy won't have the same flow as target direction. With target direction, we can mess with it by setting the direction in the config. But random enemy is different because it has to do the random part. Not entity. This just targets the enemy, and it will just report it once. Direction. It only cares about the direction. This will be a direction of the entity. Then the direction is random. No, we need. So then we need enemy zone dot zone as a collision zone is equal to that. Zone dot. We gotta look up collision zone. It's not tracking the methods. The Godot engine isn't like infinitely robust. There are times that it gets confused, that it doesn't get all of the values it needs. Entities. Okay. There is a possibility that this would go wrong. We're going to check on that, though. Okay, so we need to get entities. So int is equal to entities.size. If count is okay, if the count is greater than 0, then we can do a thing. It's equal to this one, which is going to be a random. Random I from a range, which will be from 0 to the count. Double check that. Is it inclusive? Inclusive, so it needs count -1, yeah. Direction is equal to we need okay, get direction needs to pass these along. Then in target direction, we need to make sure that these signatures match. Sometimes it won't need to consult these. In this case, it doesn't need to consult it. And in targeter, this doesn't need to consult those. And in target direction, it doesn't need to consult either of those. But in random enemy, we do. And entity to move. We need to have both of these or it's irrelevant. Direction is equal to its entity to move, position, dot direction to entity dot position. Else that. As soon as it's consulted, it needs to immediately be able to get all of these things. If it can't, if there isn't an enemy and there isn't a entity to move, so if there's not an enemy and there is an entity to move, then we're going to try to set it. We're going to find out, is there a possible enemy? If there is, then we're going to grab one of those possible entities and we're going to set the direction. As soon as that direction is set, we don't care about it anymore. Now, it's possible that a movement type would go towards the entity, but I kind of don't want to do that. I'd actually rather that movement types only take into account direction, because then the targeters can do what they want. Yeah. Targeters are invisible, so they don't need icons, and they're not that way anyhow. So we're going to load targeters. We already have a target random enemy. Set any of that. So then we're going to go into load items. And our homing mouse has move straight line. Hey there, Sapphire. As you normally do, I'm going to remember to take a drink, a thing that I haven't done since the start of the stream. Okay, and it's not move straight line anymore. This is move random direction, actually. Because target random direction is in there, and it uses move straight line. This is more accurate. Which means we need to change. We'll get to that in a moment. Okay, move to enemy is kind of vague, but we'll deal with it. This is wherever an enemy was when it fired is where it's going. That's the direction that it's aiming to. But it's not... There is going to be a kind of targeting that is track enemy, where the direction will change constantly. Enemy, move to enemy, move to enemy. Huh. Well, no worries there, Dr. Frederick. You might be tripping filters. Okay, so we have random enemy and we have random direction. So now if we go to load items, we're going to start with this and make sure that the mouse is still working. Okay. Now we're going to change that to random enemy. Move to enemy. Well, it's not working. Oh. Set is a bool. By default, it's false. Yeah, not direction, then direction set is true. We are making sure that we actually have a non-zero vector by the end of it. If direction, not direction set, set it to random. Okay, mouse will move in random directions. Hooray. But let's add the blobs back in now. They're going to spawn one at a time. If you look, the mice are heading towards blobs. Now let's make a spread of them. Oh, we didn't reset the 5 spread. Let's fix that. Three at 90. Oh, I'm sorry. So let's put in a 3 spread now. So the mouse is always trying to aim at an enemy here. Next one is target track enemy. We could actually have a parent class to this. So random enemy would override select entity. I'm sorry, it would override the select entity, and it would override the set direction. Because right here it would set the direction and say, what is the direction to the entity? Now let's keep the as is. I don't know how we could do that. We could probably do it cleanly, but Right there. When the mouse moved off to the right, Sky grabbed it because I tried to type. We're going to track the enemy with this movement, or with this targeter. Yeah, I really think that there's a way. There should be a better way to do this. Because I don't want to have to duplicate all of this nonsense. New script. It's a targeter. This is target enemy. Okay, so target random enemy is going to be very similar. Okay. By default, in a target entity, it's going to return not entity. If we don't have an entity, then we need to try to get it. Need to set values will need to be updated. And we're going to pass in an entity to move. By default, it's going to say not direction. If we need to update either of them, by default, we need to set the values. Then, in setting the values, I don't want to presume the order. Set entity. S. Let me talk through my thinking here. Okay. So this is for targeting a enemy. There's a specific pattern for getting enemies. And we could have target player in here as well. This is target entity. Okay. Sapphire reminded me, and I was reminded of just how thirsty I had become. What's the matter, Sky? Because I need you to scratch my ears now. Okay. So, in need to set values, we ask if we need to set the entity or direction. And then in set values, so if we need to set values, we're going to call set values. Okay. Then in set values, we need to validate, we need to know which thing we're going to do here. Can I abstract set values? Hey. Yeah. So the question is, okay, targeter doesn't abstract that. Okay, first we're going to say if need to update entity with entity to move, then call set entity with entity to move. And then if need to update direction, with entity to move, then we set direction. Okay. This is in target entity, so we've got all of this. So what we need to do is this part. We also need to change these names. This will cause a problem if we don't change these names, so we need to loop back around to that. Hey there, Mafioso. Welcome. Okay, so in set entity, largely this. We also need the direction set boolean. No, we're setting the entity. This is the sequence that it will, we know the sequence that it'll go into. If we have an entity, else. We don't have an entity at that point, we make it random. Otherwise, do that. Then in target entity, when we set values, we already know what we're doing there. Once again, mouse isn't moving. Okay. No, that's right. This extends target enemy entity. Yeah. Okay. Now. Okay, so we have random enemy. We could extend random enemy and override the direction logic. Okay. Targets random enemy. Target track enemy. Yeah, we do need to have the yeah. Okay, so in target random enemy, our need to update direction is always true. Actually, Okay, the first time we update direction, it's if we had a target. So then function set entity. First, we call into the super function with entity to move. Then, if entity, then add target is equal to true. No. Just whenever we get the direction, that's if entity, then we had a target. Might need to add, we might need to be setting some inserted functions. We could add some global functions that are setting what its target enemy is, you know? So target random enemy is just a target entity, and it's setting its get entity equal to a global method that is getting a random one from the enemy collision zone. When we call into set direction, we only want had target to be set once. It's not how we would do it. We don't want to update it if we did not have a target at the beginning. We're determining our tracking target once. Okay. If we did not have a target when we did this, pass. This is update direction. Direction. Okay. This is if we did not have a target at the time we entered this, and we haven't set the direction, then we have a random direction. Nodes.get random direction. So we don't have a direction yet, and we did not have a target as of the time of calling this. Otherwise, we know We don't want to set it to that. Okay. So there's something about that sequence of events, Drew, that doesn't make a lot of sense from a plausibility perspective, but I think the ultimate result of you broke your hand, ouch, and I hope things are going better. Else we need to update the direction. We should have an entity at that point. Okay. Ah, okay. The lumber was rotted, that makes sense. Or is at least plausible. Function need update. Say Boolean. Doing well there, Drew. Doing well. We are in the midst of making new base level puzzle pieces to our modifiers. We have advanced quite a ways. Okay. If entity in entity dot alive. If not had target. Okay. So, because this is tracking the target. Hello, Daptu. Welcome back then. It would, Drew. It would. Haha. I mean, just damage to a hand is both, always going to be painful, of course. But there's also a aspect of we experience so much of our life through our hands that if you had them, then if you had them, you probably experienced a lot of life through them. To subsequently lose access to a hand for a period is very disorienting. Okay. So, if we don't have an entity and we don't have a living entity, if either of those, we're going to check. If we never had an entity, then we're going to first get the random enemy. Yeah, I think ultimately we're going to add in this is my entity acquisition method. This is class name track random enemy. And we're going to rename this to track random enemy. I think we could layer this to have a sort of parent holder class that would go in and subsequently allow you to set it in the entity definition. So I don't have to make as many child classes. But for the time being, this is okay. So if we don't have a valid entity, either the entity was never set, so it's null, or the entity that we had set is currently dead, it has been removed, then we have to deal with it again. There is a failure case in this. It is possible that the entity has been removed at the time. We may need to subscribe to a function there that says when this entity reports something, we'll have to check the entity, that if the entity emits this event, then we null the entity. We'll return to that. So if we do not have a direction, else we're going to say, so this is if we had a target or we have a direction. Either of those cases, we're going to look at the entity. If we've already had a target at the time, so else if had target and entity, we don't want to track the entity if it's invalid. So entity is equal to null. There's a great deal of roundabout happening here. Okay, no. We don't want to call set entity if we don't need to. Okay, gonna think on this a little bit more in just a moment. I will be right back. How about now? Ha! Weird. My sound was all jumbled up. Thank you, Lunar. And sorry, Lola, if you didn't hear me greet you, that was why. My microphone went haywire. Oops. Like that. Well, oops. Oops, oops, oops. Oh well. But alright, we have burst working, we have spawn positions working, we have tracking working. What happens, though, if instead in the game we have... So we're adding move straight lines. Or we can. We're going to add some move track enemies here. So by default, the mouse tracks an enemy. This is where it's going to get interesting. If I put a track enemy on a track enemy, see how confused that mouse was? It wants to track multiple enemies at once. That's not useful. But let's put it on the yarn ball. So now the yarn ball is trying to move in a spiral, but it will deviate to try to hit its target. So you'll occasionally see them spin. But if they lose their target, they then recenter and just say, oh, okay. I will resume spiraling. Let's be like that. Oh, I like that. Multi-tracking is tricky. Multi-tracking is tricky. Is there a way that we could make that plausible? because a double tracking makes weird stuff happen if it's by itself. So here's triple tracking on a mouse. Now, sometimes it will track the same target. Sometimes it will track a different target, so you'll see it reposition after it fires. But it's possible that the things that they target are two different enemies on the opposite side of the screen. So when they're all chasing like this, I get a relatively strong result. The mouse is very likely to zip towards its target. But as soon as its target, the two, in this case 3 targets, are in different positions, the tracking fights itself. Or the different trackings fight each other. Interesting. Very interesting results from that now. The trick, Lunar, is that tracking, like, the different movements are independent of each other. So if I put tracking twice in the list, each of them, as far as the process of acquiring target, something that tracks a random enemy, each individual one tracks its own enemy. They might be the same one, they might be different. So stacking random tracks can have weird results. It can be stuff like it takes out one target and then it moves to its different target. That can happen. It might, like I said, it might fight the targeting. This is why a lot of these aren't going to be alone. It's you want to pick them based on what else they give you, you know? So if I already have some tracking movement, priority targeting will be a thing, like pick the nearest enemy will be a type of targeting. Pick random it's a possibility. But like I said, all movement is independent. So each instance of tracking is completely unaware of all of the others. Piercing is definitely something that will happen. But tracking and piercing combined is tricky because they'll overlap at that point. It will pivot. Tracking, I may set a angle of change limit on the tracking. Hello, sir. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, let's add a pivot limit on it. Target track enemy. I'm going to want to go in and have target random entity should have layers to it. So like with target entity, the functions that it uses for these, I would like to pass them in. So that I don't have target random enemy and target track random and enemy, that kind of stuff. But for now... How we do. Because the problem is that the target tracking isn't getting a delta. All right, we'll have to revisit. Just a moment. Be right back. Weird. I don't know what's going on. That's frustrating. Huh. Well, anyway. Okay, so what I was speaking of is we need to add a delta to our value sets as far as get updated direction, that kind of thing. That way, we have the ability to make it so that the targeting changes over time. Project, reload project. It doesn't seem to be the microphone. It seems to be the transmission of the sound from the visual PC to the streaming PC. Oh, that is breaking down, and I don't know why. Paste. 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 Yeah. Target random enemy. We need those deltas. So random entity is not updating direction accordingly. Yeah. But in track random entity, we do. So in set entity, we don't care. In need to update, we don't care. Same with entity. It's only when we update the direction that we care. And that's right here. Float by default, it's going to be 30. Is equal to that. Camera 1 having problems. How are we going to do this? So the targeter isn't supposed to care about the entity, really. No, it should care. Yeah, the targeter should care. Radians, 2 degrees of entity to move, dot target movement, dot, I think it's angle 2, direction 2. It's how much it would have to turn to get there. If angle 2 is greater than turn rate. Then angle 2 is equal to turn rate. So we cap it at turn rate. So that's if it's going to turn faster than its maximum. Okay. So vector 2. I can just consolidate that entity to move. Target movement. Rotated. Degrees to radians. Angle 2 times delta. Stop, save, run again. Where are all my moves? I'm going to have to update all of the move types. That one doesn't care about its targeter. Move fixed is not a real one anymore. Same with that. This needs to be updated. S-curve modifies the current motion. Actually, I think that's okay. S-curve doesn't care about its target. Because S-curve modifies that targeting. It uses whatever the entity's current vector is at the time. Okay, that's fine. Okay, mouse is being thrown off. Oh, okay. That's because... it would depend on the externals of the spider as to whether the hairspray would actually effectively suffocate it there, Sam. Easier to just smush it. As far as certainty. Okay. Target, track enemy. Okay. Ah, okay. Okay. So direction 2 is set. Angle 2 has no target motion yet. That's the problem. Okay. That's the problem. Okay, so we have an entity to move, and we have an entity. If not direction. Okay, so okay, it needs to have a target movement, is the trick. So we have a direction 2. So if it doesn't have a target motion, it's normalized. Doing well, Lane, doing well. That's tricky. We can't rely on the target motion of the entity, because at this time, that's when we're determining it. We need to have so if not direction, then direction equals direction 2. It needs to internally store its direction. Okay, it will store its own direction. So if you're veering it off, it will have increasing trouble tracking. Let's give it faster tracking and turn 90 degrees a second. It is a bullet heaven or a survival game or a survivor style game. So the goal is to not be touched by the monsters, and to, in this case, to acquire add-ons to your weapons to make them more effective to hit the monsters more often to get rid of them. Let's add additional tracking into them. It will make them behave a bit wonky. Okay. Gotta make sure you keep the phone charged there, Sam. Okay, let's put some tracking on these little guys here. Okay, so instead of moving in a full spiral now, you have the little yarn balls being influenced by their target. Hey there, Somya. Welcome to the broadcast. Okay, homing motion is definitely going to need some tweaking here. Just because stacking it is tricky. We're probably going to have to add some additional motion into it, so that if it's already moving in a direction, that it doesn't interfere as much. Adding the rotation is helping, though. Yeah. Okay. Let's do a quick commit of that. Make sure we don't lose progress. Radium, yes. There's something called the spawn point, the global spawn point, which is a steadily rotating series of positions off screen. No matter what, they appear off screen. If the blob gets too far off screen, they go away. Hello, Sammy. Okay, so we have a turn radius on the tracking. That's good. Tracking motion. All right. What else do we need? Well, here, let's wrap up with showing something silly. We are going to make a stress testing one. We won't actually commit this, so we're going to go into our positioners. So we have our burst 1. we're going to take our spread 3 here, and we're going to say it's 100 projectiles. We're going to keep that. In our burst 3, we're going to set this to the 1000th. So we're going to add burst. This is effectively burst 1. Doesn't really change anything. But now we're going to add a whole lot of these tracking mice. And a whole lot of the spirals. And then we will add tracking into... Now they break off and scatter when they lose their targets. And then we'll add S-curves to both of them. Okay, so we've achieved some pretty good nonsense today. I think one of the next things is we need to start at creating packages as well. I think Oh, no. Okay, we can't do that. You see this number here? That's not good. You can't have that many things. We have hit 4 frames per second because I took the wrong modifier off first. So this number here needs to drop down a few thousand before the frames will resume. Oops. They'll go away in about 10 seconds tops, but that's enough frames have to pass for it to recognize that 10 seconds has happened. So what happened here is, if you can see it, there are the little triple dots. That's burst, and that burst has to happen, or else it goes haywire. Double S-curve it. See, that's something that I want to work on there, Lunar, is there are going to be types of movement that care about the entity that they're targeting. In orbit and spiral are 2 that I'm considering having that be the case. Orbit in particular, though. Because if an orbit says, hey, I'm targeting an enemy, one possibility would be that the orbit is distorted by going after the enemy. But the other would be that the target of an orbit is what it tries to orbit. It tries to put that at the center, you know? So orbiting an enemy would be effectively a combination of tracking. Because it would move to it. Yeah. It's pretty good. But what if more? And actually, what if more like that? Okay, these have double targeting now. Now they're going to be saved by the fact that there is a non-homing motion in them. But each of these yarn balls has 2 targets. If it loses one target, it will instead track to a different one. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now we're getting this tight motion because they're spawning in 90-degree cones when it emits them. But we could... Let's get that burst on all of them. Burst 1 is going to be baked in. I may make that a default, is that no matter what, when a positioner chain is created, it puts burst 1 at the start. Let's get the 360 spread. That is a different logic set there. Now we're getting a similar movement pattern from this, but let's add in some homing to the spiral and we'll get more weirdness. But it's these weird combinations that are going to be the center of it. So, for example, things like orbiting, the idea of having a basic one that is just select a target and then orbit it. So it would say, like, hey, track this enemy or similar. Well, based on how it's going, if it says just move in that direction, then the orbit might just try to move and align itself around it. But if, say, it was, so if it was select a monster, so it targets a random enemy, it will just grab a random enemy and try to move around that enemy. So it would loop-de-loop towards it. But if it was track enemy, the way the loop happened would change based on the facing of the creature to the projectile. So things would get wonky pretty quick. That's not a combination that I would probably make. You know, target track enemy doesn't play nice with an orbit. But target random enemy plays just fine with it. So the reason we're getting the circle is the spread pattern that we've got. It's rotating around as it fires. And it takes at least one frame per rotation. So, for still more giggles, that would be strange, Lunar. You would probably start to get a stretched orbit. Like, it would try to get to both of them, and it would depend on which one was stronger. So if one of the orbits had more of a pull based on, like, velocity or something like that attached to it, then it might drift towards that one more. But you'd probably get this weird elliptical pattern. And it would also very likely bump some of its targets. Let's change that back to 3 and 90 just to keep sanity on it. We'll keep that burst of 3 as 3 burst of the as a burst 1. Then we're going to go into the game and we're going to add in a few spirals and a few circles. So in the same pattern, we put our burst 1s in place. And we get these rolling. So they come out in these gigantic fans. Now we're going to add an orbit to the mice there. So this is the mouse trying to track, but it's also trying to move in a circle, a fixed circle. This is not tracking orbiting yet. Tracking orbiting needs to be when it has an entity. When it checks for an entity, it says, I will center on that entity. So if we add a second orbit to the mice, it just exaggerates it. You can see that it's becoming, it's akin to a spiral when you do that. We'll get some S-curve in here. Now we'll put the S-curve after the orbit on the mice. Okay, I think that'll be a good target for next time, but let me verify some stuff real quick here. Yeah, I think that'll be a next time that we'll start on that. We can go in and we can start adjusting the orbiting and similar. Yeah, we can start adjusting the orbiting and the like to have a, if you have a target, behave differently kind of thing. So a spiral might try to spiral out from a target. Try to converge on it in an increasingly tight arc. Or it might, like I said, radiate out from wherever it is. We'll see. We'll see. Because spawn on a random position on the screen and then spiral in is an interesting idea for a projectile. Yeah. Yeah. I think we made some progress today. I think we made some good progress. We added some new things. I do think we need to do that where the burst one is centered on, or is always the starting point for a positioner chain. That it will always create a copy of burst one and put it on the front of the chain. That way we don't need to worry about the rate of spawning. Even if 100 things spawn at once, we get one thing per weapon per frame. Maximum. With a 30 frame per second cap. So things get wonky if the frame rate starts to drop, but we could also tune it to be faster by adding going to 60 frames a second. Or adding more physics frames per visual frame. But we got to be careful with that. But progress today. Now, EDF 6 goes live at midnight-ish. And EDF 6 dropping means that's going to be our game. The game that we play when we're not coding for the foreseeable future. So at least 2 times a week, we're going to see some EDF 6 starting Friday. I don't have those streams posted yet. I hope to shortly. But that will be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this week. And then I'll figure out how to weave it into the schedule for the coming weeks. Get a lot of that. In any event, folks, I hope you had a good time coding with us today. If you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, that sort of thing. I promise the sound problem doesn't happen all the time. In any event, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.